welcome also especially I want to recognize also especially Dr. Adeoye Adefulu, the chairman of the NBA-SBL. Then I can see also the vice chairman of the NBA-SBL, Mrs. Ozofulatunde Ogemuda. I welcome you both especially. Then also, I want to welcome the council members of the NBA-SBL present, all chairman of committees present, all ESCO members or committees present, and every lady and gentleman present. I want to thank the secretariat and also members of the committee, Aviation committee, for all the efforts they put in to organize this webinar. I say thank you and God bless you all. Now, this topic, the causes and possible solutions to rising cost of aviation travel in Nigeria, is engendered or have been specially chosen because of the disturbing alarming rise in the cost of aviation travel in Nigeria and even aviation services generally in Nigeria. For every ardent or even occasional traveler or user of the aviation services in Nigeria, we have noticed that in the last 1 year or 2 years, there has been an alarming increase in the cost of aviation travel. And to give us an idea of what we are talking about, I'll read a report, just briefly, a report from the This Day newspaper of the 17th of July, 2024, just a few days ago. Now, the This Day newspaper gave a report on that day, and I think there was a research that was conducted by the Business Day, the Day newspaper that was conducted, and they came up with a report. And part of the report says that the average price for a one-way ticket to any destination in Nigeria has surged by over 150,000 naira in 1 year. The average price of a one-way trip from Lagos to Abuja now costs about 143,000 naira, as against 51,000 naira last year, indicating a 180% increase in prices. Now, on the Abuja to Port Harcourt route, the average price of a flight ticket is 220,000 naira, representing a 389% jump from 45,000 naira in the corresponding period of 2023. Now, similarly, a one-way trip from Abuja to Enugu, which used to be 90,000 in 2023, is now about 200,000 and more when booked on short notice. So this is just to give us a picture of what you're dealing with. And it is not limited to just domestic travel. It also affects the international travel. So the essence of this webinar is to help us to understand the factors that are responsible for this increment and if there are possible solutions to this problem. To discuss this topic are two eminent persons that have the experience and the knowledge from both the operational and the regulatory and of the business. One is from an airline, international airline, and the other is from the NCAA, which is the regulatory authority for civil aviation in Nigeria. Now, for the operational angle, the speaker would be Mr. Dennis Ruiza. Mr. Dennis Ruiza is the regional manager for West and Central Africa of Rwanda Air Limited. Rwanda Air is an international airline that operates from Africa. It's headquartered in Kigali, Rwanda, but has operations in several countries in the world. Mr. Dennis, Mr. Dennis will speak on this topic, giving us a perspective from the operations perspective of this problem. It will help us to understand what the problems are from the eyes of an operator and what the solutions may be or could be from the eyes of an operator. Then also from the regulatory angle, we have Mr. Rotimi Arogunjo. Mr. Rotimi Arogunjo is the General Manager, Air Transport Regulation, Directorate of Air Transport Regulation, Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. Mr. Arogunjo is also the head of the Department, Allied Aviation Services and Economic Oversight in Directorate of Air Transport Regulation, the NCAA. He has held various positions of heightened responsibility in the areas of air transport statistics, airline and airport economic regulation, fare and tariff, cost recovery, aviation insurance, etc. Now, Mr. Arogunjo is a member of the ICAO Air Transport Committee's Airport Economics Panel from April 2006 to May 2017. And is also a member of the Council of Regulation of Air Freight Forwarding in Nigeria. He is the NCA representative in that body in 2018. He was a delegate to the 2014 International Convention of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport that held from the 1st to 6th of June 2014 in Melaka, Malaysia. He is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport. I want to thank both Mr. Dennis and Mr. Rotimi for taking our time from their busy schedule to speak to us on this topic. In order not to take much of our time, we'll delve straight into the discussion. And I'll start with Mr. Dennis.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we require the moderator and all speakers to have their cameras on. We've put a comment for you.
Okay, the Secretariat, my camera facility is on. I don't know why it's not on the system.
Yeah. Hello, Barrister.
Yes.
I want to suggest that when each presenter starts, they should put their cameras on.
Okay, Mr. Dennis, I hope you're comfortable with that. I know you said you wouldn't want to put your camera on earlier.
Well, I had requested that my picture, first of all, good afternoon to everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I had requested that my picture be put up so that it can be seen. That's what I had requested.
So, Madam Vice Chair, I think it's a technical issue. My facility is on. My video is on. So I don't know why it's not appearing on the.
Yeah, we've asked the technical
to
people to look at it on the back end. Let's go on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Dennis Riza, I will start with you. So you give us the operator's perspective to these issues. Let's understand what you think from your angle the problems are and what the possible solutions to the problems are. So I'll start by asking you, now, from an operator's perspective, Mr. Dennis, what factors are responsible for the rising cost of air travel in Nigeria?
Okay, well, can you hear me? Am I clear?
I can hear you.
All right. So once again, thank you for the opportunity. I want to just stress that I'm speaking on behalf of the airline. I cannot speak on behalf of others or what they would specifically want to bring to the table concerning the question. But I'd like to first of all point out that a lot has regularized since some of the issues from last year. Well, the main issue from our perspective was just the unstable Naira. The fact that the Naira did lose quite a bit of value. And when you consider some of the, and it varies because different airlines have different bilateral agreements in terms of their operation. They also have different capacity available in the market. So then there are overriding factors like what I mentioned of the devaluation of the Naira that sort of brought an imbalance in terms of how much a ticket would cost in Naira and its contribution to all the various facets or elements that make up a ticket, everything from taxes to the airfare, etc. And not forgetting that, of course, there are other factors such as fuel that also do come into the whole equation. So, in general, it was mostly just the valuation of the Naira that may have contributed to rising of prices in terms of just the value of what the Naira was at one point and what it was at another. And there was a need to stabilize that in order to get value for an air ticket in general. From where I stand and having been in Nigeria for close to a year now, I experienced this firsthand on reporting to the station. But at the same time, a lot of things have stabilized, and I might mention that we rather took other concessions to try and limit the effect rather than fair rises. So it was basically that, to keep it short.
Okay. Now, thank you. So, from your perspective, the Naira devaluation and the rising cost of fuel are the major causes of the rising cost of aviation travel in Nigeria. I'll come back to that, but let me ask another question. Now, these factors that you've mentioned, are they just a Nigerian problem, or are they a global problem?
So I would rather stick to a Nigerian perspective, and I would say yes, it was a Nigerian problem. I mean, we saw the Naira devalue from about possibly around 600 from the time from, let's say, around mid-year last year to about 1,610 where we sit today. So that is more than 100% devaluation. And I think it speaks volumes in terms of how we would have to adjust accordingly to possibly get value for money from this. So mainly it was the exchange, the devaluation problem. Yes, and I would mostly say yes. It was happening mostly in Nigeria, even though a few things were experienced in the region too. But I'd rather keep it to Nigeria.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Now, Mr. Dennis, the operator's actions, your perspective, or inactions contribute to the rising cost of air travel costs in Nigeria? Are there things that the operators are doing or are not doing that are contributing to this problem?
Okay, so from an operator perspective, I would say apart from pricing, which is monitored by the regulatory authorities, of course, who are part of this wonderful seminar today. The other factors, just like I mentioned, I mean, bilateral agreements are not specific to, or rather general to airlines. They're in tandem with the country, from country to country. So bilateral agreements and means of acceptable currencies of trade that vary from operator to operator may render the subject variable in response to the question. In addition, we have to consider that some airlines have capacity, or rather seats available for sales further influence air travel costs, and this is from an operator perspective. So it thereby makes the subject rather trivial to answer on a general basis for the industry. But to a certain degree, you find a situation where current operators currently exist in the market or have been existing for quite an amount of time, affected by the pricing of a new entrant, for example, and this may drive possibly lower travel costs in terms of on a competition perspective. At the same time, and apart from such a scenario, the opposite side of the pendulum is that even a destination of where an operator goes from Lagos, the destination may have a change in regulation or taxes for that matter, environmental factors basically that may influence the pricing from time to time. So most of the time, I mean, rise in air travel is driven by market factors, both operational or operator-based and environmental, if I can say that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that response. Now what I want to ask is there any way that you think that Nigerian government can help to stem this tide? And the reason why I ask this question is, if the passengers are not coming, because when the rising cost of travel is affecting the frequency with which people travel, a lot of people are swapping to road travel, other means of transportation, which are cheaper than air transport. So if the people are not coming, it affects the number, it affects the revenue of the operators. And if the revenue is affected, then of course the business will be affected. So even if prices, the ticket prices are higher, you're getting more. But if you have lesser persons coming to the airports, that means you have less business and it can affect your revenue. So now you need the government, because you've talked about the devaluation of the naira, and you've talked about the rising cost of fuel. So you need somebody to step in at some point to assist to stem this tide, to protect your own business too. So are there steps that you think, from your perspective, that the Nigerian government can help or can take to stem this tide?
Well, thank you once again. I hope I'm still audible.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, I'd like to start by recognizing the government and the authorities with us today they've been very instrumental in facilitating the availability of Forex given the situation we faced over the past year. And that has led to, to business continuity. In fact, I might mention that as one day we're increasing our frequencies very soon as stabilization comes to the forefront. So in that same light, that helps to promote more liquidity. I'm just touching on my previous point. I will not get into specifics because I believe it's very well known to everybody. But it promotes liquidity. Liquidity encourages more preferred business activity positively. How does that come about? I mean, we're talking about more liquidity brings more competition. And just like I mentioned, increases capacity, just like in the case of Rwanda, we are taking a step back and now we're taking a step forward once again. We intend to increase our capacity to daily as of October, and not only our capacity, but our frequencies also. So that being said, I mean, it inevitably will lead to more competition, which in turn, as per market forces, will bring travel costs down. We all know a competitive environment breeds lower unit cost in order for people to compete and to get business. So, I mean, these market forces and the way they act and how the government comes in is all intertwined, and it works in that specific order, or at least when the opportunity presents itself, and we happen to be on the latter side of things, of which I mentioned the government did step in on behalf of the airlines and enable some liquidity, and so they work in tandem. Case in point, I mean, and now it brings us around to the general thing about African skies and the liberalization, sorry, of African skies. I think that is the overriding factor, and this really does lie in the hands of the continent. We're speaking on a continental basis now. Case in point, just look at how affordable traveling within the continents of Europe and America are. I mean, it's nowhere near in terms of airfares when you compare it to travel within Africa. So over and beyond what I've mentioned from a Nigerian perspective, and I think the liberalization of African skies would really be a very large step towards better airfare travel and business in general. I mean, you can imagine how business will boost with more movement. So that would really be my response to that.
Response. Okay, thank you. Now, what steps do you think that the operators can take to protect themselves from these factors that are responsible for the rising cost of aviation travel? What are the steps you think that you at the airlines, the operators, what are things you think you can do to protect yourselves?
Thank you. So again, I will speak from a Rwandair perspective, but I would not like to be misquoted as speaking on an industry level generally.
Okay.
But to keep to the question, I mean, in our case, I'll just speak about what we did. We did not halt operations, some did. Rather, we reduced our frequencies. We went throughout, we did not change our fares, we went throughout, but rather what we did was reduce our frequencies to accommodate the change in the tide, so to speak. We reduced our frequencies to 5. We were doing more than that prior to that time, but we did so due to the prevailing circumstances, lack of forex and a depreciating naira. But we felt it was very important to maintain presence. You see, the longevity of our services into Nigeria speaks volumes, and we took a very practical approach to this in terms of maintaining a good stance in the market, maintaining presence, and maintaining good relations for the same. I mean, so again, that's what we did. We reduced our frequencies just for that time. And like I said, we're poised to increase our frequencies as of October again, as a result of some stabilization, even though the rate is still rather here and there. But you see, at the same time, that's what we did. So that's one of the steps that an operator may take. Other airlines may choose to do different things, but that is the step that we took, and I thought I'd use that as a prime example for such a thing.
Okay. Oh.
But then, of course, it has its adverse effects, like you mentioned earlier. I mean, there's less capacity, less revenue generation for everybody from the government to the airline, so to speak. So yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that response. Now I'm going to just the last question, but this question is very important. Important because this is the customer centric. This one affects the passenger. You know, it's the time of the year when people want to travel, want to go on vacations, want to go on holidays. And rising cost of aviation travel would eat deep into their disposable income. So a lot of people would try as much as possible to reduce or to find a way to reduce the cost of travel. So now this question is, are there some passenger schemes or facilities that you think or you recommend that the passenger can take advantage of to reduce his or her air travel costs? So this is like giving tips to people who want to travel. or people who use aviation services. So you are giving them tips, and I'm sure a lot of people are interested in that now. So are there tips, are there schemes or facilities that you think that the passenger can take advantage of while making use of our tickets or while making arrangement for travel?
Yes, so thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you for the question. So there are various ways common to most, if not all, airlines, not necessarily in Nigeria, but around the world, so to speak. So, I mean, we have seasonal promotions to begin with, and this more or less promotes travel during a time that is not typical of peak travel. It's what we call maybe the shoulder and the lower periods of travel. And it varies sometimes from some airline to another, but mostly typified by the season of travel, which means the particular time of the year. So there are promos that are launched. We've done quite a bit, and we continue to do the same. So and I mean, we publicize these promos everywhere on our platforms, and with direct databases that we may hold within our own particular sphere of reference or influence. So apart from promos, we even have frequent travelers of whom patronize loyalty programs that are either individual to an airline or across partnerships amongst airlines of which they can benefit across the board. Like for example, Rwanda and Qatar Airways, we have one, and you have other alliances such as SkyTeam and the rest in one world. So for frequent travelers, it is mostly in their interest to join the loyalty program such that they can benefit from various advantages once they accrue their miles. So they accrue miles based on a scheme per travel. They accrue their miles and they can redeem these miles for various kickbacks to them or advantages such as, you know, reduced travel, maybe even free travel after a particular period of time and a certain amount of miles that have been accrued. Yes, everything from free travel to extra baggage allowance, seat upgrades, and the list goes on and on. Maybe ground arrangements for transport, etc. So mostly is promotions and loyalty programs, and apart from that is earlier purchase. You know, sometimes Nigeria tends to be a last-minute market in terms of purchase of tickets. By last minute, I mean most people make a decision to travel probably a month prior. That has been our experience from a Rwanda perspective. You do have markets such as the UK where people plan ahead and purchase their tickets anywhere from 6 months to a year in advance, and this significantly affects the price of the tickets. So all these kind of things are what we speak about with partners in the industry and their clients directly, and our direct clients more specifically. We educate them on good practice in order to reduce cost, because most of the time last minute travel would tend to be a little bit more of a cost than if you did it a little bit prior. So I'd recommend, even for Nigeria, especially on our services, if one purchases a ticket 3-4 months prior, you would tend to save a neat amount of money to make travel more affordable. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Dennis. Your contribution has been very insightful and helpful, and we thank you very much for this contribution, especially for the tips that you've given. For those who are listening and who are interested, I'll summarize these tips in three. There are 3 of them. Please take advantage of seasonal promotions. take advantage of loyalty programs of the airlines, and then book your flights early. When you do this, then you can be sure that you can reduce the amount to spend on your air tickets. Okay, thank you, Mr. Louisa. We're very grateful. So let's move to Mr. Rotimi Arogunjo. Yes. So, Mr. Rotimi, are you with us?
Hello, I'm here.
Okay,
Good
thank
evening.
you. Good evening. You
Can you
have a
hear me?
presentation. I can hear you very well.
And our other colleagues.
Yeah,
Oh, you
everybody
can
can
hear
hear
me?
you. Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you. We can hear you. So you have a presentation to make.
Yes, but I have a presentation
Okay.
which I would have loved to convert to PowerPoint. But I'll still do that and send, if you can send to share with attendees.
Problem.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yes, the presentation, all the causes are addressed and the solution. But if I have to go through, if there is time, I can go through the presentation as is presented in highlights, in bullet
Yeah, you
points.
have like 15 minutes.
Okay, let me start with where Mr. Dennis stopped.
Okay.
In the wake of the non-repatriation of funds, just as he rightly said, that led to these trapped funds of foreign carriers. I'm starting with foreign carriers.
Okay.
You know, the airlines, the foreign carriers, they try to safeguard their profit and their survival by blocking their lower inventory fares to Nigeria, to Nigerians, the Nigerian traveling public. So when we notice this, I'm just summarizing, the acting DG of CA formed a stakeholders forum and addressed foreign carriers. At this, thereafter, he set up a team, a tripartite interagency team. It's like a standing committee comprising
Hello, Mr. Rotimi.
Mission and NANTA, National Association of, and saw that many of the foreign carriers, although this is past, it has gone, it has disappeared, since the Nigerian government has paid them, have paid off the trapped funds.
Yeah.
So, this committee is standing and is watching. So then we noticed that some of them were doing price gouging. Understand what it means? They just believe that Nigerians can afford the fares, so they will increase it. They will increase the fare. So we noticed that according to Part 18.19 of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Regulations 2023, talking about abuse of dominant position, anti-competitive and unfair business practices. We noticed that the Nigerian traveling public was at a disadvantage. And the DGCA invited all the foreign carriers to meetings severally, individually, not together. Even Mr. Dennis was there, one there. Maybe his representative. So since February, we have been doing, but when things normalized, we are still working together. We are collaborating the agencies, FCCPC and NCA. So that's just a brief on the goings on that has led to this stability. Although the exchange rate is affecting patronage by Nigerians, exchange rates, instability, fluctuation in the naira, Then let me go to the domestic carriers.
Okay.
In the first place, let me just simplify it. The domestic airlines, they spend in dollars and they earn in naira. They spend dollars in on maintenance, insurance premium payments, on other things, you know. Some of them even pay. So they require dollar and they are not seeing dollars. They were not seeing dollar. They even up to now. When an aircraft is in under maintenance, to get the dollar to send to the some of the factors affected their negative in terms of exchange rate, inflation, and the other things, and the other economic variables. All these are affecting the domestic airlines. Although they have their own issues too. Some of them, the fleet management is not efficient. Then they're not cost efficient. And largely, the domestic airlines are not competitive because of all this rising and high operating costs. And some of them talk about taxes. Tax is different from charges. NCA discourages arbitrariness in accordance with international basis. ICAO, we follow ICAO, and we have domesticated the NICARs, Nigeria Civil Aviation Regulations, that's the subsidiary legislation. So this has been the intervention by NCA, DG, acting DG. So for that, the domestic carriers have issues, serious issues with, they barely make even marginal. I have to tell you the truth, but some of them are okay, they are fine. In terms of the other things. So we discovered some other things, like the cases of one of the airlines mentioned, the Turkish, how they are treating Nigerians. You know, it's not only about airs and tariff, but about consumer protection too. That's part of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Regulations. So at this point, I think I should stop. Maybe if you allow me to go to the presentation or send it in PowerPoint later. But go through now, if you can share it. You already have it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Please, we'll be glad to receive the presentation. I know you sent it in Word form.
Those are the. I'll send it in PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Although the way it is now is in highlights and bullet form.
Okay, so you want to develop it further before you send it to us?
Yes, I want to develop it to a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
No, we don't mind.
I'll wait.
We'll be glad to receive.
You know, traveling and I'll be very.
Okay. So before
so any question, then the solution. No, the solution. We have been saying refinery for aviation fuel. If you can have refinery, lower the cost. If we can improve on our macroeconomic variables, reduce inflation rates, because these airlines cannot borrow and make profit. The interest rates are high. By banks, they are high. And then the insurance, they are, you know, no premium, no cover. They are paying in dollars, and for Nigeria, they will pay a security fee because of the situation here. Insurance premium, they pay in dollars. Maintenance in dollars. Ground handling outside in dollars. Lease payments, dollars. And they are earning in naira. I think I will stop at this point. If you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Arogunjo. Now, what I could get from your contribution is that the factors that are responsible for this rising costs in air travel are, you you're emphasizing on the dollarization of the industry, of the aviation industry. Am I right? Hello, Mr. Arugunjo.
Hello, I didn't hear that you
So I said you
emphasized on.
yes, on the dollarization of the aviation industry.
Dollarization is a recent regulation by CBN, but the thing is they pay in dollars. They accept naira, the maintenance people. I don't know how they do, but they pay dollars. Maybe they convert at the prevailing rate.
But it's contributing
it's
to the
not
cost.
That it's contributing to their cost of operation.
Okay, good.
You know, it will have to reflect it in their charging. They do reflect because you cannot carry out an operation.
We can't hear you. Yes. We couldn't
I mean,
hear.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, yes. Okay, maybe because of time. Yes. Mr. Arugunjo, thank you for your contribution. I would have liked to engage further. Okay.
The internet is
fluctuating. Yes. Network is not good, too good.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. Yes. Maybe you just round up.
Yes. So the contribute to this operating cost. We call them direct operating. Apart from indirect, that is overheads that they pay here in Naira. Is there any question? Are there questions?
Yes, I'm trying to see. Okay, now I'm going to allow questions from, because of time, from the listeners, from the participants. So if is there anybody that has a question to ask any of the speakers? Okay, let me check. Okay. Now there's a question. Now, okay, for Mr. Rotimi, this should go to you. Can you hear me?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, so a participant asked a question. He said, considering the value of the Nigerian currency in relation to the dollar, is there a way to dollarize the Nigerian air travel markets?
Say again, is there a way to?
De-dollarize the Nigerian air travel markets?
No, CBN regulation is well, I mean, when they are earning revenue. Hello?
I can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you. Please
You mean
speak.
when they are earning their profit? You mean their revenue?
No, not the
revenue is in
revenue.
Naira. They
No,
don't
not
do
the
dollar.
No, not the revenue. I think
Hello?
they are spending, we think they are spending in dollars and they are earning in Naira. Is there any way to make that,
Yes,
those expenses
outside.
that they make in dollars, is there any way to ensure that those expenses are made in Naira? So they don't need to go shopping.
Is CBN that, I think is CBN that does this for them, allocation of the dollar, that they are this
for dollars, carry out the operations.
For maintenance, is CBN that will allocate? It's not that they'll just carry dollar. Some of them do it for premium. It's not allowed. They just end up paying because of the fluctuating rate valuation. Hello? Can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Barrister, I can't hear you again.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Yes, yes. So let me ask the second question. Now, what is the NCAA doing in terms of partnership with other government agencies to achieve the availability of the Jet A1 to airlines, especially the local airlines?
The only thing, what we do is because DPR and the other agencies, like the ones that have Jet A1, aviation fuel, when these cars, we can write to them, and they know that we should know the causes of availability, inavailability, and the pricing. The pricing most times are determined from the international market. But what the airlines are agitating for is refining in Nigeria. It is believed that if we refine in Nigeria, convert kerosene into Jet A1, because kerosene is like Jet A1, but it needs to be refined to be able to power a jet engine. If we can do, Nigeria is one of the very few countries in the world where we still use kerosene for cooking. Kerosene is Jet A1. If you can use the kerosene resources, we have a lot of kerosene here, and do the refining into Jet A1, then it may lower the cost.
Okay. Okay, just to add
And we
that.
have made a representation to government through a ministerial committee.
Okay.
That there should be refining of kerosene into Jet A1. Jet A1 is aviation fuel.
Okay, thank you. Now, I know the Dangote refinery is currently refining, but I don't know if it's refining Jet A1 and selling to airlines. I wouldn't know. But is the NCAA doing anything concerning that? Are you people in discussion with maybe the refinery? Even if the airlines, I know, are not, they may be discussing with the refinery to get, but the NCAA are assisting in that regard to see if that refinery can give, can supply or refine this Jet A1 and supply to the airlines to assist these airlines to reduce
I'm
the
not even
operation.
sure whether Dangote refinery has started refining diesel or petrol, not to talk of aviation fuel. I'm not sure they have started, and I'm not sure they have started producing for usage locally.
Okay, but is that not something the NCAA can find
Yes,
out and see if they can
we
assist?
collaborate.
Yes.
We can liaise with any agency that's forward-looking. We can do it, but Dangote has not really started refining, at least the aviation fuel. Also, although it's something I can find out and update in the presentation.
Oh, please do, because somebody is asking for that presentation, even in the question and answer session. So people are asking for the
I'll
presentation.
send it.
Oh, good. Okay. So, Mr. Arogunjo, I will allow you. Yes, I will stop here. But before then, let me just read out this last one. Somebody says a significant component of high ticket costs is government taxes, charges, and levies. Also high operational charges by monopolistic airport authority and ATC, and airspace management. Also intervention of regulator in pricing. For example, NCA intervention when ground handlers raise tariff by 1,000% despite existing contracts. Are these agencies willing to reduce their charges? So I know there are other regulators in that industry, but the NCAA is the numero uno. So what this person is trying to ask, it's talking about now the charges and levies on airlines. So he's asking, is there any way the NCAA can encourage these agencies, other agencies, to reduce their charges on this airline? Maybe this would assist in reducing the operational costs, and then also assist in reducing the cost of air travel. So is there any way?
I need to correct an impression.
Okay.
There's only one regulator.
Okay.
And that's CAA.
Okay.
The others are service providers, airport service providers, ground handling service providers, air navigation service provider. We have only one in Nigeria. So NCAA is the only regulator.
Okay.
No other regulator. Although the other service providers, FAN, NAMA, they have their own statutes. But NCAA is the regulator as recognized internationally, recognized by IATA, recognized by KO, and other UN agencies. Okay. So regarding your question, you know, I said it before, that NCAA is always discouraging arbitrary charging.
Yes.
Before you charge, there are steps you take. You call the stakeholder, the 4 principles of ICAO. The document 9082. Non-discrimination, there has to be cost relatedness. The charge, because charge is different from tax. Mostly, we don't have tax in aviation at the airports. We have a charge. And a user charge is one that you levy to recover, to plow back into aviation. But tax is going to the national treasury. It's not available for use in aviation. So that's the difference. So mostly it's charges. So, and the charges cannot be increased arbitrarily, especially aeronautical charges that are strictly regulated. So aeronautical charges are regulated. They cannot be charged arbitrarily. So you have to go through the steps, cost relatedness, non-discrimination in charging, consultation. You have to do consultation before the new charge, if agreed, can apply.
First, okay. Okay. So thank you, Mr. Ogunjo. Because of time, I'll let you go now. I'm very grateful. Yes, we're very grateful for the time you spent giving us this perspective and giving us these answers to the questions. So thank you. So Mr. Dennis, I know you have another meeting. So I'll ask you this last question, Mr. Dennis, before you go. I hope you're still here.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, so I'll ask you this question before you go. Now, between a increased travel costs, maybe airfare, and lower operational costs for the airlines. So you're making more money you're making more money and not between higher travel costs and higher operational costs. So you're making more money, but you're spending more in your operations, and a reduced travel. So you have a reduced travel costs for the passenger. So the passenger are paying less, and then your operational cost is lesser. Which would you prefer?
If I got your question correct, are you asking between reduced operational costs and reduced airfares, which ones would we prefer? Is that your question? Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Sorry, there was a bit of interruption. Please come again.
Hello?
Yes, please come again. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hello.
Dennis.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear
Can you
you.
hear me now? Yes. Please ask again.
So I'm asking, would you prefer to have reduced operational costs,
Mm-hmm.
reduce air ticket fare? So you're making more money. You are making less money from sale of air tickets, but you're spending less in your operations.
Okay,
Or would you prefer
yes.
spending more on operations and getting more money as revenue from air tickets?
Okay, so that's a rather double-edged question. It's a rather loaded question because the two
Yes.
may go hand in hand, yes. But at the same time, when it comes to airfares, there are other factors that affect it, whether to the degree of high operational costs or beyond that. So why I say it's loaded is that it's not very easy to address it from an operational
Okay.
cost point of view alone. There are other market forces like competition, like okay, fuel is operational, that is fine, but it's kind of segmented also. There are plenty other factors that may affect the air travel costs. So I don't mean to sound like I'm sitting on the fence, but it's a very loaded question that can't be secluded to operational costs alone, if I can say that. The operational cost side of things definitely is a contributing factor. I mean, supply supply really does intertwine and come around to demand also. If there's no way an operator can operate and subsidize the operational cost and profit margin at the same time. There has to be a leveling factor that puts one in business, and that's across the board. So, I mean, operational costs, yes, are a contributing factor, but I have to say, in short, there are many other factors that come along with operational costs that may also affect pricing. And again, it goes even beyond just operational costs from a Nigerian perspective. There's a lot to do with the continental perspective of things. I like the fact that the fuel, when we were having a small conversation on fuel provision, it is something that I had also maybe wanted to mention only. I mean, it would be a wonderful thing if as an oil producing country, we could actually have access to locally produced and sold Jet A1 fuel. I think definitely there would be much saving on costs there that would contribute to lesser air travel costs from a customer perspective. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm sorry, it's a very loaded question, so I wouldn't like to address it
I
with a
understand.
one-sided view. Yeah.
I understand. So thank you, Mr. Ruiza, and thank Mr. Arogunjo. We are very grateful. Your perspectives have been very insightful, and I'm sure all the listeners have benefited from your contributions. We hope that when we call on you again, sometime in the future, you would heed our call. And
I'd like to thank you most profoundly for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you also.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Thank you for the time and the audience.
You're welcome. So I'd like to thank everybody that's been part of this webinar. We are very grateful. But before we go, I would like Mrs. Ozofu, the Vice Chair of the NBA-SBL, maybe to make some remarks, if she's still on the call.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm still on the call. I will try to put on my camera, but I don't know whether the bug that's infected us earlier has been cleared. Okay, I think
Okay, we can see you.
Okay, lovely. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank our speakers, Mr. Dennis. Thank you so much for all you shared. I'd also like to thank our members and other members of the public who attended. We have 60 participants right now and had a good turnout throughout the event. So thank you. Thanks to the Aviation Committee for putting this together. I think the topic is very, it's very relevant at this time. I remember 2 weeks ago trying to buy a ticket, and incidentally, even though one of the comments that was made was that Nigerians tend to be last-minute purchasers of tickets, I was trying to buy a ticket that's about 6 months away, and the prices I was hearing were staggering, to be honest. And I just couldn't imagine how we would continue to buy tickets if prices continue going up. So I think the topic is very relevant. It's very timely. So thank you to the committee and thank you to our speakers and to our audience. I hope everybody gained something from spending an hour with us this afternoon. And I wish you a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Vice. We are very grateful to have you too. Yeah, thank you for the remarks. So thank you to the Secretariat. You've been very, very, very supportive and you've been very, very helpful. We thank you for all your efforts in putting this together. And once again, I thank the Aviation Committee members. You've been very supportive and you've been very helpful. Look forward to more webinars and then to the members, to every participant. When we call on you again, please join us when subsequent webinars come up too. We're very grateful for your presence. We don't take these things for granted. So thank you and have yourself. This is the end of the webinar. Until we see again, have yourself a very good evening and God bless you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.